Congress, did you have, were there similar ideological battles
Yes.
between representatives
Yes.
who were voicing
Yeah,
views
yes, there were similar ideological battles that, well, I remember there was this, the chair of the Judiciary Committee in the early years when I was there, or during this period of time in the 1979, 1980, Sam Hall out of Texas was just dead against it. He just was not going to be moved on this. Now, fortunately, what happened is he moved off of being chair of that committee, and others came in as chair that were much more open to this. And eventually, the chair became Barty Frank. And Barty Frank, at the time of the passage of the redress legislation, for about the 2 years prior to that and so on, Barney was the chair of that committee and was of that subcommittee, and was a very, very able and important reason that it passed. But other important reasons, Norm Mineta did a tremendous job on this, as did, and then the respect for the senators that were involved in this did much for the passage. But other things that were very important is that the speaker of the majority leader of the House at that time, and later became Speaker, but the majority leader of that House, Jim Wright from Texas. Well, there was a Texas battalion that was saved by the 404th, and during those years of working, of everybody working this bill, working this legislation, and the hearings that went on, there were many hearings and so on, there was a lot of support out of the Texas battalion that was saved by the 404, which was the Japanese American regiment. That was the most decorated regiment in U.S. military history as a percentage. And so Jim Wright and others that were connected to this Texas battalion, that helped a lot as we moved through this. And the basic heroism of the 404, the basic heroism did much to move people to go back and say, let's take a look here at what really was going on. That here were soldiers fighting and dying against the Axis powers. And their families were in barbed wire fences, which, as Norm Mineta pointed out, the machine guns were pointed in, or the guns rather than machine guns. I remember Norm saying the guns were pointed in. In other words, they were prisoners in an internment camp. Well, their families were there, these heroic members of the Japanese American forces were becoming the most decorated in U.S. history.